A young Mafia leader, Park Jimin, known for his tactics and merciless nature, was walking through the streets of his territory one evening. He was searching for someone or something, his expression hard and determined. Suddenly, he noticed a figure huddled in the doorway of an abandoned building, shivering and looking terrified. He approached her cautiously, his body tense and ready for anything. As he got closer, he realized that the girl was not just any ordinary person. She was a poor girl disabled from one leg, no more than a teenager, with a broken walking frame. Her clothes were rags, and she was clutching a worn-out blanket around her shoulders for warmth. He studied her face for a moment, feeling a strange mix of pity and fascination. Something about her innocence and made him feel protective, as if she belonged with him. Without hesitation, he crouched down beside her and gently asked, "You're shaking. Here, let me help you with that." He carefully wrapped his arms around the small, frail figure. Despite the chill in the night air, she shivered uncontrollably, her hands trembling and her breath coming out in ragged gasps. "My name is Park Jimin," he said softly, his voice sending a shiver down her spine. "I'm going to take care of you from now on. You don't have to be afraid anymore." He brushed a stray lock of hair away from her face, his thumb tracing her lower lip. She closed her eyes, feeling the warmth of his touch spread through her entire body. Disabled girl," she stammered, her voice barely audible over the pounding of her heart. I'm not. I don't." Tears welled up in her eyes as she struggled to find the words. She had never known such kindness or protection before. It was all so overwhelming. Jimin smiled reassuringly. "Shh, don't worry about that. From now on, you're my princess, my treasure, and I'm going to take care of you no matter what." He leaned down, his lips brushing against her ear. "I promise." The girl, whose name was Ryan, couldn't help but believe him. Something about Jimin's eyes, his voice, his touch, it was as if he truly meant every word. And for the first time in her life, she felt safe, cherished. She nestled deeper into his embrace, her heart beginning to beat a little less frantically. "Thank you, Jimin," she whispered, her voice still shaky but filled with gratitude. "Thank you for rescuing me." Jimin smiled down at her, his thumb rubbing soothing circles on her cheek. "You're welcome, my princess. Now why don't you close your eyes and try to get some rest? I'll make sure nothing bad happens to you." He adjusted his grip on her, carefully lifting her into his arms and carrying her to his mansion. As he walked, he hummed softly, the vibrations of his chest sending a shiver of contentment through her. She could feel the warmth of his body, the strength in his arms, and it was all so reassuring. Soon enough, they arrived at a cozy bedroom where a huge bed took up most of the space. Jimin carefully laid her down on the soft, comfortable mattress and tucked her in, making sure she was warm and comfortable. He brushed a few strands of her hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek for a moment before he pulled them away. "Sleep well, my princess," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. "I'll be right here if you need me." With those words, he left the room, shutting the door quietly behind him. Vian felt a pang of sadness as she listened to the sound of his footsteps growing fainter, but it was quickly replaced by a sense of safety and security. For the first time in a long time, she fell asleep, without a care in the world. A month ago, her step-parents left her alone because they couldn't accept a girl with a disability. She had no home and no shelter. She survived on the streets and in a deserted building, eating convenience store expiry food. Jimin paced the hallway outside of the bedroom, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. He couldn't believe how much Vian meant to him already. It had only been a few hours since he rescued her. He glanced at his watch, wondering when he should wake her up. It was still early, and he didn't want to disturb her if she was still asleep. Finally, he mustered up the courage to knock on the door. There was a soft groan from inside the room, and Jimin smiled to himself. She was a light sleeper just like him. "Vian," he called out, his voice soft but firm. "It's time to wake up, princess." Jimin entered into the room. Vian blinked sleepily up at him, her eyes still half closed. She murmured, her voice from sleep. Jimin reached out and gently ran a finger down her cheek, smiling when she didn't pull away. "Come on, sleepyhead, it's time to face the day." She yawned and stretched, revealing the nightgown he'd given her, which clung to her body in all the right places. Jimin felt a wave of desire wash over him at the sight of her. "I'll make you some breakfast," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Why don't you get dressed while I do that? By the way, I have a new walking frame for you." Vian smiled and nodded. She walked with the help of her new walking frame over to a nearby dresser where she began to rummage through the drawers. Jimin watched her for a moment before turning away, unable to resist the urge to admire her. He walked down the hall to the kitchen, his heart racing with anticipation. He knew that this was just the beginning of their new life together, and he was determined to make her happy. He set about making breakfast, humming softly under his breath as he worked. The smell of fried chicken and eggs filled the air, and soon enough Vian joined him at the table, looking fresh and radiant in a simple but elegant dress. "It smells amazing," she said, taking a seat across from him. "Thank you, Jimin," he smiled, feeling a surge of pride and love for her. "You're welcome, my princess. Enjoy your breakfast." As they ate, they chatted about their life, their voices laced with a tenderness that made Jimin's heart soar. He knew that together they could face anything the world threw at them. After breakfast, Vian decided to explore the mansion. It was much larger than she thought, with multiple bedrooms, a spacious living area, and even a private gym. They stopped in front of a large window overlooking the city, taking in the view and enjoying the warmth of the sun on their faces. Ryan and Jimin had fallen in love despite their different backgrounds. They lived in Jimin's luxurious mansion surrounded by loyal guards and servants. They thought they had everything they wanted until one day their enemies decided to. A group of men stormed the mansion at anyone who tried to stop them. They were looking for Park Jimin, who had made many enemies in his rise to power. They wanted to him and take over his territory. Ryan, who was in her bedroom when she heard she panicked and tried to call Jimin, but he didn't answer. She knew he was in his office on the other side of the mansion. She hoped he was safe, but she also feared for her own life. She crawled to the closet and hid inside, hoping they wouldn't find her. She heard footsteps and voices outside her door. She held her breath and prayed. "Where is he? Where is Jimin?" One of the men shouted. "I don't know, maybe he escaped. Let's check the other rooms," another one said. They opened the door and entered the bedroom. They searched the drawers, the cabinet, the bed. They didn't notice the closet. Ryan heard them moving around. She felt a surge of hope. Maybe they would leave soon. Maybe they wouldn't find her. But then she heard a loud. The closet door was kicked open. She saw a man pointing up. He had a scar on his face and a wicked grin. Well, what do we have here? A little mouse hiding in the closet. Are you Jimin's girlfriend? Ryan was terrified. She couldn't speak. She just stared at him, hoping he would spare her. He laughed. "Don't worry, darling. I won't. Not yet. I have a better idea. How about we take you with us and make Jimin pay for you? Or maybe we'll just have some fun with you first. What do you say?" He reached out to grab her. She screamed. "No, please, leave me alone." Ryan screamed as the man grabbed her. She felt a sharp pain in her leg. She looked down and saw he had her non-disabled leg. He yelled, "You're coming with us." He dragged her out of the closet. She saw two other men waiting outside. They had bags full of money and jewels. They had the mansion. "Look what I found, boys. Jimin's girlfriend. She's disabled, but she's still pretty. Maybe we can have some fun with her before we..." The other men laughed. They looked at her with, "Good job, Scar. Let's go. Jimin might be back any minute. We have to get out of here," one of them said. They carried her to the car. She felt dizzy and weak. She tried to resist, but it was useless. She thought of Jimin. She wondered if he was alive. She hoped he would come and save her. She loved him. Meanwhile, Jimin had escaped from his office through a secret tunnel. He had heard and knew he was in danger. He had tried to call Ryan, but she didn't answer. He feared the worst. He reached his car and drove away. He contacted his men and told them to meet him at a safe house. He wanted to get revenge on his enemies. He arrived at the safe house and saw his men waiting for him. They were ready to fight. "Boss, are you okay?" one of them asked. "I'm fine, but Vian, they took her. They are going to. We have to find her. We have to save her." He was furious and worried. He couldn't bear the thought of losing Vian. She was his life. "Who did this? Who are they?" another one asked. "They're from the rival gang. They want to take over my territory. They want to destroy me. They're led by a man named Scar. He has a scar on his face. He's the one who took Vian." He showed them a picture of Scar. He had seen him before. He knew his name and his location. "Where are they now?" one of them asked. "They're at an abandoned warehouse. I have the address. Let's go. Let's get them. Let's get Vian back." They got in their cars and drove to the warehouse. They were ready. They were determined to rescue Vian, and they reached the warehouse and saw the van that had taken Vian. They parked their cars and got out. They surrounded the warehouse and entered from different sides. They saw Scar and his men inside. They had Vian to a chair. She was unconscious. Scar saw Jimin and his men. He smiled wickedly. Well, look who's here, the boss himself and his little army. What a surprise. Did you miss your girlfriend? Did you come to save her? Too bad, she's already. We had our fun with her. She was but she was also a good target. She didn't feel a thing. You're too late, Jimin. You're too late. He lied. He hadn't Vian yet. He wanted to make Jimin suffer. He wanted to see him break. Jimin saw Vian. He saw her wounds. He saw He felt a surge of pain and anger. He thought he had lost her. He screamed her name. "Vian! No, Vian!" Scar right on his head. He ran towards her. He reached her. He held her in his arms. He cried like a child. Vian, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I love you more than words can say. Please don't leave me. Please wake up. Please be alive. He pleaded. He kissed her, caressing her face with tender desperation. His lips pressed against hers, then gently to her forehead. A faint glimmer of hope surged through him, a pulse, a heartbeat, a breath. His gaze fixed on her, witnessing her eyes fluttered open. It stunned him. She's alive! He exclaimed. He enveloped her in a tight embrace, gratitude flooding his being, thanking the universe, fate, and every force that had conspired to keep her with him. Weakly, she reciprocated the embrace, a faint smile gracing her lips. "I'm here. I heard you. I hate your love. I love you too," she whispered softly. He kissed her again, a gentle expression of his overwhelming emotions. "I love you. I'm ecstatic. You're here. You're mine," he murmured into her ear. In response, she nodded slowly and echoed his sentiments. "I love you. I'm grateful. I'm yours," she whispered back, their eyes locked, overflowing with love, relief, and joy. In the midst of darkness, their love shone bright, bringing them back to life and to each other.